We're here. Thank you.
Thank you. Ron Denimore.
Yes, ma'am.
Weather Office.
We're here.
OSF Action Center.
Yes, we're here.
Alex McCool.
We're here.
Colonel Jim Halsell.
We're here.
Scott Southwell.
We're here.
Jack Keifenheim.
Here.
John Hamill.
John Hamill's here.
Thank you. EMSR.
We're here.
Thank you. And Linda Ham.
We're here.
At this time, I would just like to inform all parties that today's call is being recorded. Thank you. You may begin.
Okay, good morning and welcome to the MMT. We'll start with MOD, and before we do, I'd like to say that two things I wanted to talk about today. One was the end of mission down weight and what kind of analysis we would need to do for that. And the second thing was the potential IFMs for the space had because of the water separator failures. Okay, Phil, give us a status of how we're doing.
Okay. Onboard operations are all going real well, and the crew's doing a real good job with the timeline, keeping up with the workload on board the vehicle, and to everything we know, the crew's in great spirits and happy with the ground support and the way the mission's going. Cryo, as we previously reported, we're continuing to gain a little bit of margin, pretty much at the rate we gave you guys a couple of days ago. We're up to about 2 days, 8 hours of margin right now, and if we forecast the ongoing increase, we'll be at about 2 days, 16 hours by end of mission. Somewhere in that range, as close as we can tell. Of course, we keep turning off rotating equipment and inverters. We'll keep making more margin, but so we're getting further ahead. So we did, however, rearrange the LIO Q card to protect EOM plus 4 on LIO now. So you have the option of using some of that cryo if we need to, and still protecting EOM plus 3.
Okay.
From a landing capability standpoint. The temperatures in the modules have more or less stabilized. We've watched over the last couple of days since we did the valve positioning, repositioning, and they've kind of crept up very, very slowly. You have to watch over days to see the trend because there's more noise, very hour-to-hour variation based on crew workload and that sort of thing. But you can see a trend over the last couple of days of increasing about 1 degree a day or so. But it looks like in maybe the last 24 hours that's more or less stabilized, or the rate of increase is changing. Maybe we're getting to a flattening.
What temp are you at now?
We're running at about 79 degrees in the HAB, I believe, and 76 in the mid-deck. We got up to about 81 degrees yesterday, I think. And, again, we attributed that to a number of bodies in the module at the time, and exercise that was going on back there as part of one of the experiments.
Okay, and the rule is 80 degrees, but the flight surgeons, have they been in on this discussion?
Yes.
Okay, and we can go above 80 if we need
We've got
to.
a crew comfort zone plot that relates the humidity and the temperature and all the related factors, and they're comfortable that we're within an acceptable area, and the crew indicates that the conditions are acceptable.
Okay, and what about Vanessa, the HAP folks, and that they've got back there?
Talked to the Code U folks with regards to the veterinarian. He's not given like a hard limit call. As long as we're managing comfort that veterinarian must say. But he is available, and we will keep apprised of the temperatures.
Okay, and I guess the crew volunteered at one point to take these muffler covers off of. I assume you're going to talk about that.
Right, the mufflers are off the AEM. They are getting as cool air as they can.
Other than that, there's not a lot to report. I will say the crew did send down a note last night asking if anybody is talking about extension days. So I'm going to go with that. And we set up to the crew about a 16-second video clip of the strike just so that they're armed if they get any questions at press conferences or that sort of thing. But we made it very clear to them, no concerns. Integrity.
When is the press conference? Is it today?
I think it's later today.
Okay. They may get asked because the press is aware of it.
The press is aware of it. I know folks have asked me because the press corps at the Cape have been asking. Wanted to make sure that they were properly.
Okay. Back on the temperature, do you see any increase when they exercise back there?
It's hard to distinguish because you have experiments being turned on and off, and like I say, data points from hour to hour to hour change, and there's time lags in there from the time that people do things until you see the effect in the cabin temperatures. So we're just trying to extrapolate or trying to add up all the things that are going on that we know could be contributing to it in certain factors.
But from your viewpoint, you don't think we're going to need to implement the IFM?
At this point, we don't think we need to.
Okay. Do you have a comment, Vanessa?
No, just to say, Space Hab is also tracking 79 plus minus 1 degree.
Mm-hmm.
And where they are not asking to implement the IFM because it will require the HAB fan to be turned off at 30 to make sure the situation worse. Only if they had some major problems, changes in. They are looking, Linda, to ask for a more extensive evaluation and cleanup just to make sure there's no water left back there when we come down for land.
We did have a little discussion yesterday. I don't have all the details. I tried to get a little more information, but apparently there was a concern that cropped up temporarily yesterday that we may have been accumulating significant amounts of water under the cab floor. And that was, I think, based on a more of a thermal balance discussion and what folks might be thinking about this increase in the water rate and efficiencies of heat transfer rates on heat exchangers and things like that. There was a meeting at 4:30 yesterday afternoon, and I think everybody has put that to bed, and the official outcome of that is we believe we're not accumulating any water, and that more than likely we've evaporated almost anything that did accumulate at any time under there. However, we're still talking about just this kind of make sure kind of get to entry.
So no one wants to do that, and I saw 2 different IFMs. No one wants to do either of those because the cabin fan needs to be turned off for 30 minutes. But there's another one in work that keeps his cabin fan on, and
Right, Space Hab folks are working on it.
Yeah, I think basically
water cleanup only.
Basically it's just taking the DC vac, and there's like a 1-inch access hole in the cover of the box down there, and they just want to just suck on the box for a little while and try to get any water out of it that might have accumulated, and some tape over it to make sure nothing else might
out of there. Okay.
That's all I've got.
All right. Mark?
Okay, good morning, Linda. First of all the orbiter subsystems are in fantastic shape, so we're looking good there. We've been looking at a couple different things over the last couple of days, doing some analyses. One is the landing weight limit exceedance, and the other is assessing the impact of the damage that we might have sustained on the port wing. I'm just going to summarize some charts that we got this morning at our meeting instead of going through all that. But as far as for the landing weight exceedance, the folks have gone off and looked at our capability to land with and we're getting, the chip we've got to respond to shows that we're going to be in the 233,600 pound to 900 pound region. And they've gone off and looked at flight control, thermal stress, and landing gear and tire. And for flight control, they're not concerned about an exceedance of 500 to 1,000 pounds because we're covered there by the abort certification. For thermal, the MOD guys normally run their TSEP analysis for looking at the different entry trajectories, and they've done some of that already, and there's no violations indicated, and unless there are violations indicated, we're not concerned about thermal. We'd only have to go off and do some other analysis, some more detailed work if violations were indicated there.
And which thermal are you talking about? Bond line temps? Or more than that?
I'm talking about bond line temps. Is Pam in here? I think bond line temps primarily. But
yeah, the bond line temps were enveloped by plus or minus 3,000 pounds and 3 inches, according to the flight report anyway.
We're just talking about the overall vehicle certification limits. The TSEP looks at various body points all over the... We'll give you an indication as to whether you're in certification that document.
That's in more than just bond line temps.
Yes.
Okay. And you're saying that TSEP showed that we're within the limit, so you don't have to redo any analysis?
We coordinated with MOD, and they had looked at 233.7. I think they probably would want to go and look at your final number when you get the final number. But 233.7 for the nominal rev, the max cross-range cases and cases, all had no violations, and so with that we don't have a need to.
Any evaluation does both the thermal and stress? stress as a result of this?
They are related. Thermal adds a component to the stress evaluation. It's thermal gradients contribute to your stress.
Which is worse? Wouldn't low cross range be worse? Does it turn more?
Yeah, I don't have those sensitivities. I don't recall it, and it kind of varies, I think, the body point.
Okay. Okay.
And also we looked at stress and would determine that stress was acceptable for the higher landing weights by similarity to the heavier abort landing weights, as long as the thermal conditions are within limits. And then as far as landing gear and tire goes, that's something that we typically do, protecting tire pressures. And of course, Harry and his guys will continue to make sure that.
That's the tire piece. Is there something you do in addition for landing gear?
Well, that's really the tire piece. You're
Okay.
correct. Pam, you have anything to add to that?
Well, the landing gear is covered by abort certification, so it's covered under the structural cert, and so I think what Harry is looking for when he gets the final weight, he'll get the final tire temperature limits, and he'll make adjustments if required to the attitude timeline requirements to protect those.
Okay.
But I think, Linda, kind of the bottom line answer to that is we think we'll be able to, live with the number that they're likely to come up with for end of mission on landing on this one.
One more. The main engine nozzles.
We don't look at those, correct, Pam? I mean, that's.
Right. That is system integration, and I believe they have evaluated heavier weights than the 232.
Yeah, Linda, we've done assessment for this down weight, and it's not an impact to the interface loads, both for the cargo and for the integration hardware.
John, you're real hard to hear. Did you say we're okay?
Yes, in so many words.
You didn't have to do analysis because we're covered by the aborts?
Well, the structures working group, actually pre-flight, had looked at a half-full EDO pallet, and so the interface loads that we're talking about for this nominal end of mission is within the loads that we've assessed prior to the mission.
But he's not answering your question. Your question was main engine nozzle rim.
Oh, main engine nozzle. I thought it was cargo.
That's integration and SSME, so I can't really speak for.
So, Don, you haven't looked at the engine nozzles?
I'd have to go back and check on that.
Okay, well, we'll leave that piece open for you to report back.
Okay.
And the other item, Linda, that we're looking at is, we took the inputs we got from the systems integration guys on the debris.
Before we go on,
Okay.
back on the downweight thing, so the only open piece, I believe, is the engine nozzles. So we need for integration to work that. I see I have 2 pages from... Yeah, before we go on, maybe we can
One
finish
piece
up.
of information, Linda, also is we probably, I think we talked this morning, we will require a waiver against those 7700 for whatever the final weight is if it's over 233K. So just want to make sure you know we're probably going to have to process paper.
Okay,
for the
and who
inspection.
would process that?
I'm assuming it would probably be Orbiter in that case. It's Orbiter requirement, Linda, or
Well, with
integration.
different elements, it might be the flight manager. In the past, that's sponsored the CR for the waiver. But
Why don't we do that? Because we're probably going to get different pieces. The biggest piece probably from Orbiter, but then it sounds like we're going to have another piece from integration. You may even have a piece from the MOD folks. So we'll get that piece in work, and we'll wait for Don to give us an answer on the nozzles. And I imagine, Don, we'll wait for yours, I think, before, and put that in the MERS response to that chit.
Okay.
You guys were planning on responding.
And you'll respond through that through the merge hit then.
Yeah, we'll include your response in the MER chit, so you'll need to get it to me, and so I can see it, and Don McCormack, whoever else the other MER managers are, in case it's not a ship.
Okay.
Okay.
Could I ask one question on that? So the issue here, though, we're still within our certification limits, and we're violating a requirement. Is the disparity in the requirements that exist just a margin issue? Is that the reason we've got the disparity in?
Well, we're not within certification. We've not done a full certification for end emissions for all conditions above 233, and thermal is the biggest driver there. You know, in aborts we do accept limited harbor damage due to thermal effects. And we don't do certification by increments, so I can't really tell you where that comes into play, but it's something that we need to understand for anomalous end emissions.
Okay, so if you waive this, does your analysis include any additional turnaround type activities associated with potential damage? I guess we're giving up some margin here, and I'm just wondering.
I believe it should preclude that. I don't know if Mike, you have any comments.
If we did, then that's why we're having this meeting. We would need to know about it, if there's going to be any kind of extra actions we need.
Right.
We don't want to get in that situation. We should try to get rid of the cryo,
That's right.
get under our 233K.
That's right.
So we're not within the 233K, which is our certification weight limit. But they were doing this analysis, or their envelope by the existing analysis says that we won't have any kind of damage and we won't need to add any kind of inspection. Okay, let's do the piece from flight design on the downweight.
Okay, I'm Richard Jones. I'm the entry FIDO for 107. I was asked by Leroy to bring some data. I think a lot of the data has already been covered in the discussions that we've already had, so I'm going to go to the second bullet, really. As far as previous flight history, I'd like to just point out that 107 is, I think you can say that is within family of where we've been before. STS-90 touchdown just under 233K. No thermal analysis was required for that flight. STS-87 touchdown roughly 90 pounds over the 233K limit. With that flight, basically no thermal analysis was required. However, prior to deorbit, we were predicting to be under 233K due to on-entry consumable usage. We came a little bit over, and that's what happened. And STS-83 was our big excursion. That was the MDF, our early termination flight. We landed at 235, 286 pounds. So 107 is within that flight envelope, and I think the analysis is showing that we're well within where we've flown before. So
Right, and for 83, we didn't have to do any extra inspections or anything. We sent the chip during the flight. I don't think the rules allow us for early mission termination on these kind of heavy flights to be above 233.
I think the rules call for a chit to be issued so that analysis can be done to clear that excursion. there's no waiver written against anything for STS-80. Right.
Oh, I understand what you're saying. Right. So you're within the rules, so you write the waiver, which is different than the end of mission. Okay.
So, continuing, really I don't have to go into what would have to be done on page 2. As far as our recommendation, we'll continue to evaluate the mass property predictions. We'll keep looking at it every day, making sure that not only, weight, there's no significant weight increases above what we're telling people right now, as well as the CG, make sure we're in the CG box. And we're going to do everything that we can to minimize vehicle weight with our deorbit burn. Take all the necessary precautions.
All right.
That's all I really have.
Okay.
Hey, Richard, I guess I got a question. Is that redeliver EI bond line temperature product to ECOM? So there may be some changes in bond line temp?
The only reason I put that there was that, we're doing a lot of analysis right now anyways, and one of the products that come out is that EI bond line temperature. I really don't think that the ECOMs require it. They've told me that they're okay right now.
Yeah, they shouldn't, because it is enveloped by the 3,000 pounds and 3 inches. We did that years ago because we were running into this and having to do a bunch of real-time analysis. Let's see, any other questions or comments? So, Don, how long do you think it would be before you get your answer on the engine nozzles?
As soon as I leave here, I'm going to go chase it down. I'm hoping it today.
Right. Be good if we can have that all wrapped up and the chit closed before Monday's MMT, or, by Monday's MMT, at least a verbal.
Yeah, we'll have it by then.
All righty. And with that piece, then we'll close the chit and Vanessa will work on the words for the waiver. Okay? Anything else on the downweight? Okay, go ahead, Don.
Okay. And also we've received the data from the systems integration guys of the potential ranges of sizes and impact angles and where it might have hit. And the guys have gone off and done an analysis. They use a tool they refer to as Crater, which is their official evaluation tool to determine the potential size of the damage. So they went off and done all that work, and they've done thermal analysis of the areas where there may be damaged tiles. The analysis is not complete. There's one case yet that they wish to run, but kind of just jumping to the conclusion of all that. They do show that obviously there's a potential for significant tile damage here, but they do not indicate that the thermal analysis does not indicate that there's a potential for a burn through. I mean, there could be localized heating damage. There's obviously a lot of uncertainty in all this in terms of the size of the debris and where it hit and the angle of incidence and so it's difficult.
No burn through means no catastrophic damage.
Right.
And the localized heating damage would mean a tile replacement.
It would mean possible impacts to turnaround repairs and that sort of thing, but we do not see any kind of safety of flight issue here yet in anything that we've looked at.
So no safety flight, no issue for this mission, nothing that's going to do different.
Right. And
there may be a turnaround.
Right. It potentially could have hit the RCC, and we don't indicate other than possibly coating damage or something. We don't see any issue if it had hit the RCC. So, although we could have some significant tile damage, we don't see a safety of flight issue.
What do you mean by that?
Well, it could be down to the. We could lose an entire tile. I mean, and then the ramp into and out of that. I mean, it could be a significant area of tile damage down to the SIP, perhaps. So it could be a significant piece missing, but
That would be a turnaround issue only.
Right.
Right. Okay, same thing that you told me about the other day in my office. We've seen pieces of this size before, haven't we?
Hey, Linda, we're missing part of that conversation.
Right.
Linda, we can't hear the speaker.
He was just reiterating, it was Calvin, that he doesn't believe that there is any burn through, so no safety flight kind of issue. It's more of a turnaround issue similar to what we've had on other flights. That's it? All right, any questions on that? All right, Vanessa.
Okay, Linda, for the space hab, as Phil mentioned, the temperature has been hovering right around 79 plus minus 1. They have powered down the space hab subsystems that were not necessarily needed to help with the cooling. They've done 4 adjustments of that water flow control valve to get the water temp up in the whole experiment water loop. It's gotten up to about 61 degrees, which is still within VCD's desired limit. VCD has another run today, and they finish at 4 o'clock. Once they're done with the VCD run, then they're going to try to crank up that temperature a little bit more so that all of the going through that area. And the intent is to reduce the module temp as much as they can with that. In addition, there's a chit number 10 that's going to go into the system requesting that we, the orbiter, to increase the airflow. Right now, the way that we're configured, we're getting like 53 cubic feet per minute, and they're going to look at trying to take an orifice and open it up to increase it to 100 cubic feet per minute. Chit's been out there as a chit 7, now it's going back in as a chit 10 to be reviewed today. That, they believe, would bring the temperature down 2 to 3 degrees, if it's feasible.
And we didn't get a chance to talk that much at our 7 o'clock this morning, but I did talk to the guys some, and they've they're working that, and they've assessed it, and I believe we're okay with removing that orifice to increase the airflow to the hab.
So that would be great. That'd bring the temperature down.
You don't believe that that's going to divert air from orbiter
well,
cabin atmosphere?
It will divert some cabin air. But I mean, we don't see it as being a cooling. It's not a cooling issue for the orbiter, mid-deck. So
would we reconfigure before entry?
I don't
That's
know.
normal.
I don't know. I'll have to get that answer
We need to
for
look at that too.
Hey, Don, this is Carmelo Ascension here at the MER downstairs, and the diversion of that extra 50 CFM to Space Hab will not pose any crew comfort issues for us on orbit.
About entry.
Entry, we probably would need to redivert back some of that airflow back to the orbiter. That's something we'd have to take a look separately.
Okay. We could look at that also, but it's probably a smart thing to do. Okay. We'll continue moving forward with that. With regards to the data and command issue that was reported on, the patch has been put in place whereby the PDI, KU Channel 3, KU Channel 1 are going to the prime EDGA unit, and Channel 2 is going to the backup EDGA. Basically separates out the piece having the errors on it. And they are still having crashes on the Channel 2 side. However, you're not taking down all of the telemetry capability. They're managing it the same way, just enunciating there's a crash is going to come, everybody reboot. Everybody's dealing with preventing anybody from getting the... So with that, in terms of the Space Hab, science operations are going well. We did have a couple of little snafus overnight between the SMMT. Code U has one experiment called microbial physiological flight experiment. They believe one of the two experiments significantly impacted by procedural error. They'll look at it more post-flight and determine the impact. ESA, the BioPack unit itself, did a thermal shutdown. They believe that there's a filter that's blocked. It did not cause the circuit breakers to do anything. It's just internal controls that cause it to shut down. They are going to try to unclog that filter sometime today if possible, see if they can get the unit to come back up. Right now it's set to operate as both a refrigerator, freezer, and an incubator. If not able to get it to come back up, doing capability only, and that'll help them to salvage 3 of their experiments. They did lose 2 experiments on yesterday. Power down. They were able to salvage 1 of them. And the commercial payloads, we're still having command and telemetry issues with the MISTERS payload. On yesterday, Freestar gave up one of their runs in order for MISTERS to run. They still had some issues during that run itself, but they're doing better, just they still aren't all the way there. Freestar is operating very well. They're capturing great data. In terms of the EDX experiment, they're still getting bright observations they're very happy about. They're looking at potentially getting a dust plume on flight day 10, but right now they still have the cyclones over the area, so they're not getting any dust. And just ending on a positive note, so that everybody understands we are getting great science on this mission. There's a payload called CM2. Softball has had 2 firsts on this flight. They have a flame that is twice as long as they've seen on the previous flight. They're very excited about that. And according to them, they have the smallest flame ever produced in the free world. And and it's 0.5 watts, which is compared to a birthday candle, which is 50 watts. So they're pretty excited about that. That's it. Okay, flight crew.
No issues. No issues.
Okay, Sam?
Nothing to add.
Integration?
Let's see, I think I'd already reported that downweight issue was not an impact to cargo loads or was acceptable, and I still owe you the answer on the main engine impact from downweight. And we also participated in the discussion on the increase in the airflow to 50 CFM back to Space Hab, and from a cargo internal cargo standpoint, we're in concurrence with that. And that's all I got, and I'll try to get you an answer on that engine as soon as possible.
Okay, thanks. Lauren?
Nothing to add to what's already been stated.
Shuttle processing?
Nothing to report, thank you.
Launch integration?
And Linda, we don't have anything here. I don't know if Wayne's on the loop.
He's behind me. He just said nothing also. Marshall Projects?
Oh, we have nothing to add.
Okay. Safety?
Nothing else, Linda.
All right. Thanks for your support. An excellent job so far. So keep up the good work over the weekend. We'll meet again Monday at 8 o'clock. Have a good weekend. Thanks.